Hey everyone, welcome back to Google Workspace Recap, your number one source for everything Workspace with the Tab Geeks Network. My name is Jesse Nolan, my co-host is Steve Larson, and we're here to help you keep up. Converging multiple of my interests and possibly multiple of some of yours, Starship has finally gotten off the ground with an incredible display of power this week. And for those of you who love the band Rush and space stuff, I actually created a video, or I should say recreated a video that syncs up the launch of Starship with Rush's famous song Countdown, which if you know the song, you may or may not know the story. Countdown is a bit of an anthem for space nerds. It's played on the International Space Station, and it's played also, they've used it back in the shuttle days for a wake-up call for the crew, things like that, and it's full of nerdy references. So, and this is something I say recreated because years ago people had done that for different shuttle launches, and the band was actually there for the first launch of the shuttle, which was Columbia, way back when. So if you're if that sounds interesting to any of you, go and check it out. Check it out on our YouTube channel. Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Well, the music video starts with like a scene from launch, Launch Central.
Yeah, so the official music video does have a mission control and the prep from NASA. Yeah. But then also it kind of became a tradition to sync up that song to the shuttle launch videos later on. And then I figured it was only, appropriate to do it for Starship. So, and it came out pretty cool. I like it.
Just like playing in the background right now. I'm listening to it.
Nice. It's a great song. It's I feel
like we should have like that overlay, like on the intro right there. Just like have it really subtle in the background. Yeah,
I can do that.
That's what you should do.
It's got a really solid beat. It actually switches time signatures in the middle of the song, which is a Rush, mainstay for anybody who's familiar with the band. That was kind of one of the things that made them special, is doing that regularly. And in a lot of their music, and they definitely do it here, and there's a great point in which it switches that time signature, and I managed to, and this is just a proud editor moment for me, managed to time the video, the scene change in the edits to the signature change exactly. So that was like, oh, this is working out awesome. Love it. So super nerding out on editing, on space, on Rush, on getting to see some of my other interests here as we are over 120 some odd episodes in now, possibly more. Oh my god. Episode 17 here.
52, right? 52 weeks a year, two full years. It's 104 plus a couple extras.
Yeah. Plus now 17 of this season.
That's right.
Whew.
It's been a while.
Sweating just thinking about it.
I know. The longest running Workspace, Google Workspace podcast ever, right?
By a mile, by the way. By like 10 miles.
Nothing's come close. So,
round of applause for us.
We've got our very niche group of listeners here, but it's been fun.
You know what?
It's been fun.
It climbs. It counts.
It's fun. We enjoy doing it. This is what we do.
We love doing it, and we love doing it for all of you. And people come back every week, and the audience is growing. Yeah. So, we crossed the 500 mark on the YouTube page, on the YouTube channel, just a week or two ago, and we're at 550 already. So
I do talk to a few friends, and they're like, "Oh yeah, what do you do? Like what? Like new people, right? And like, oh yeah, I've got a podcast. Like, oh, what's the podcast name? I'm like Workspace Recap, and someone said to me, "Oh, this could be a really good podcast for me to listen to fall asleep to." I'm like,
only Steve's part, not mine.
Probably just because it's not really your thing, but you could just listen to it and fall asleep to it. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was emailing with a Googler who was introducing themselves off of the Chrome OS team, and they were introducing as a cold email, so to speak, not sales, just as a resource, for Workspace and whatnot, and trying to introduce Chrome OS Flex and what Chrome OS can do. And I was like, I not only do I know about Chrome OS and Chrome OS Flex, I'm a little bit of an expert, and by the way, I do this show. And he's like, oh, I love your show. So lots of people at Google apparently are listening to us, and that's always fun, coming across somebody who's listening to the show just randomly like that.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know.
True.
Well,
we've got a few good updates. Actually, there's one that really stands out. I've been I was really excited to see this one. We'll talk about that in a second. But decent got a number of updates here. We've got, again, lots of news articles that we will talk about. In terms of updates, we saw 2 come out at the end of the week in the recap post. And then we had 5 during the week. So looking at those updates, we have those silent releases there being the improvement of multi-instance support for Google Drive Android apps, and then also the autofill using a mouse on the Google Sheets Android app. So a couple Android app updates there, which leads us into an update later on regarding new Pixel devices, which is cool.
Oh, you gave away the hook.
I don't know if I'm going to be... I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be spending that much on a new Pixel device, but
no,
very cool to see Google coming out with that.
Yep.
New form factor. In terms of updates that we saw this week, first one of 5 is that you can now assign admin roles to specific groups. That one has been just like lingering around for a while. Finally got released. It's been talked about for quite some time. So you can also expand admin privileges for Google Meet hardware devices. And you can now turn off the video feed for select tiles in Meet. So if you've got someone that has just, I guess, an annoying video and you don't want to see them, turn it off. There's some better location context for events and RSVPs in Gmail. And then the update that I was mostly interested in is that you can now co-present Google Slides in Google Meet. And, I think this is a really good update because because you can't do this in Zoom. You can't do this in, Teams. You have to be using Meet and Slides together. And I think, more functionality like this is what Meet and Slides and everything needs, is that that interdependency upon the other products to make sure that not interruptibility, because interoperability is well, I'm thinking of interoperability like cross product, like different, not cross product, but more of like cross company things. Like interoperability was Exchange calendar sync, right, with Exchange and Google Workspace, that interoperability there. So this is more, of course it's interoperability between products, but it's more the commingling of products from Google.
It's deep level integration is what you're looking for there.
It's the integration, but like reliance, like the reliance on the other product to make sure it works, right? So you can't use this functionality unless you use Meet, unless you use Slides, right? The pair.
Well, it's similar to using an iPhone for Apple services and a Mac because they work so well together. Except you don't have the hardware side of things; it's all cloud. Now then again, if you put it on a Chromebook, you do have some of the hardware side of things, but we digress.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I thought about that.
And it's about time Google started really harnessing that, because that should be their strength. So yay.
Right. In terms of other releases, not too relevant to Workspace necessarily just yet, but Bard does have some updates in terms of being able to now help you code, which is a ChatGPT functionality that was available for a little while. But we'll try to tame the Bard updates a little bit here, and I think moving forward, making sure that when we do talk about Bard, it's a little bit more relevant to what updates are happening in relation to Workspace, right? Because that is something that's coming. Those Bard updates will be, they will be coming into the Workspace product soon. So I think, those updates are of course relevant, and I think every so often some of the high level updates that we're seeing in Bard will be useful for those of you listening and interested in what's happening there. In the other news, though, we do see, that first update that we're going to talk about is Google's launch or imminent launch of a foldable Pixel phone. So the Pixel Fold is coming soon in June. So we'll talk about a little bit about that in the CNBC article that refers to that. We have another article here directly from Google talking about preparing for RSA with this cybersecurity snapshot by the numbers. So RSA being the big security conference that happens every year here in the U.S. I've got a friend who's, I think, planning to go to that, and I might join them when they go out there.
Leave your phone behind at home.
I know, right? Well,
leave
actually,
your laptop
I don't know if
at home.
See, I don't know.
Don't
if it's
join
the
any Wi-Fi
conversation.
networks.
I don't know if that's
not DEF CON, but still.
That's what I'm gonna say. Like DEF CON is the one that you don't want to necessarily go to, right? And have devices.
I think
around.
RSA probably has plenty of tomfoolery afoot over there.
Well,
so
I don't know. Not as
not
much
as
as
bad. DEF CON is like people breaking into people's hotel rooms and stuff with, hacked
lots of stuff.
Toys.
Yes.
It's actually terrifying because I've seen a lot of women talk about their experiences at this event and getting their hotel rooms broken into because they're women at these events, and they're definitely in the minority there, and that's very scary stuff.
Not seen that.
So,
but
that's one of the reasons
other
why
things related to it, but not quite that specific.
You got to be very careful going to DEF CON, to those types of events.
Yeah. Next article in the news: Wall Street Journal article. If I can pronounce that. WSJ. Google's looking to turbocharge the AI efforts with combined brain, DeepMind unit. So it's it's like trying to read that title there and be like the combined brain and DeepMind
needs more brain power.
Yeah. The next one is the Verge article here talking about schools bringing in millions of Chromebooks in 2020, and 3 years later they're starting to break.
Duh.
So reliability and all that. Another Verge article here talking about the Google Authenticator app finally getting like account sync for 2-factor, so allowing you to move devices very easily instead of having to manually back up those 2-factor authentication hashes and tokens that are used to generate those random time-based tokens. And then finally, an interesting session event going on with Google. It is the Google Workspace Summit, which is happening 17th of May, coming up here pretty soon. And, just before Next, which will be happening in person, as we know, later this year. So interesting to see them launching something here called the Google Workspace Summit prior to Next. And, looking at that, it's like, are they just trying to stay recent and relevant within the news and like keeping their name in, in the news feed, I guess? Or why not just have this right around Next, right? Why not wait to talk about this? But I think the timing of that is really what it's all about. This is April. Things in technology are moving so fast, and why not start to discuss that and talk about it as soon as possible instead of waiting for maybe an end of year bigger summit. I don't know, but
I would like to see them use this as a way to announce these things and then deep dive at Next. That would be amazing. Is it going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? All right, diving into those updates. So first one that we saw in the recap post was that you can now improve multi-instance support on the Google Drive Android app. So this is just helping preview a file, for example, from one account in one instance while navigating through folders on your secondary account in another instance, and making it just a better experience for multi-account support, and letting those users have 2 instances of Drive open side by side on a single device. So we get a nice, good size image here, of course, in the previews, Jesse.
Yeah.
Looking good there side by side to see that. And rollout for this one is going to come out to both rapid release and scheduled release domains starting the 28th of April. And we'll share a link to the article that talks more about that update. Next is the ability to another Google Sheets for Android app update, and the ability to autofill using a mouse on there. So this is functionality for these Android apps that have external pointing devices, mice as they're known, and giving introduce some autofill capabilities here. So you can start to autofill by dragging or double clicking a selection handle using a mouse in Google Sheets. And rollout for this one starts the 3rd of May in a couple days here, both to the rapid release and scheduled release domains. And then first on our list of updates that we're seeing throughout the week was the ability to assign admin roles to specific groups. So I think pretty self-evident here in terms of what this update is all about. There are currently the ability to assign admin roles is just based on creating that custom admin role and assigning a user to it. So this now gives you additional capability for role assignment to groups. So if you want to leverage, the group value on an admin role, then anyone that you add in and out of that group will be able to get that admin privilege. Now, this poses, I think, from my perspective, an interesting dilemma, right? Because if you have this functionality enabled, let's say that you add a group to an admin role, right? You as an admin typically had to give another admin, for example, specific privileges to be able to create new custom admin roles, right? Mm-hmm. And then they were only able to assign that user to that custom admin role. Well, now, if you're giving the ability to assign it through groups, well, you could have an admin that has a very low level permission of group permission access, right?
Yep.
Well, now you could add a user to a group that has super admin access, for example, right? If you gave that person that doesn't have a lot of privileges and a lot of rights the ability to manage groups, which groups are now being leveraged to use admin roles, well, be careful, right? Because you could have someone that doesn't necessarily know what they're doing or trying to do something that, you may not necessarily want them to do. They could just go and add a user to a group, and that group could be given escalated admin privileges. So as nice and as interesting as the ability is to use groups for admin privileges sounds, be careful because, it could get, used in a way that you didn't expect, intend it to be used for example. So
it's a really good point. And the post doesn't say anything about this.
Well, of course it doesn't. That's what we're here for. That's why you're listening to us, right? It's like getting that different angle of like thinking about, okay, what does this, new feature and privilege actually mean, right? What can now happen? And this is the case with anything, really. It's really the case with all the ways that you are able to now assign, settings and rights and privileges through groups.
Right.
So if you said, hey, I only want the people that are part of the, create external Google Share Drives group to be able to do that. Well, again, if you have an admin that has that privilege to add people to groups, or even non-admins, your manager, right? Like this is a big, like, there's a lot of potential risk for misuse or accidents or privileges that you just, escalated privileges you don't necessarily expect to happen, right? With group access, with group management.
Have you tested this?
No, I have not.
We should test this. I'm curious if it would work.
I mean,
I don't see why it wouldn't, but I'm curious.
Yeah. So
it doesn't say anything about who can assign the groups. It just says that roles assigned to groups will automatically reflect changes in underlying membership of the group.
But what I'm saying is, if you as an admin know what group has been assigned to that admin role, right? So if you know that the super admin group can have super admin access, and if you can manage members to groups,
I understand.
Well, you can add yourself to it, right?
Yep.
So you can give yourself that permission now, without really having the ability to, manage the settings for that specific service. you've been able to give yourself that permission. So that's where this is really, in general, like group admin management is can be very powerful, and you have to be careful about who has the ability to add members to groups if you're using them for like security policies and for permissions and access. Okay, so I think we've talked about that enough. Availability though is going to be, it's available now to both rapid release and scheduled release domains, available now, and then available to all Workspace customers with legacy G Suite basic and business customers also being included, as well as those Cloud Identity Premium users as well. Next, the expansion of admin privileges for Google Meet hardware devices. So increasing the number of admin privileges for the Google Meet hardware devices from 3 to 12. So it's going to give admins a little bit more ways to delegate admin roles and access as it pertains to device data and management within the admin console. So if you look at the screenshot that we will probably share here, it will list through all of the different hardware device privileges and what you can do with those. So performing certain actions, managing certain OUs, managing the devices in general, some of the calendar, managing calendar assignment, those kind of things. So more granularity here in terms of what you can allow an admin to do with these Google Meet hardware device privileges. This is, let's look at the rollout here. Well, why is it important here? Maybe that could be useful. There was some limited, so of course, limited ability to restrict access to Google Meet hardware data and functionality in the admin console for certain delegated admins. You can, I think we talked about some of the different features, different admin roles and privileges that you'll now have access to be able to do. So that list you can find within the Help Center there. And rollout for this one started on the 25th, or starts tomorrow, 25th of April, for both rapid release and scheduled release domains on a gradual rollout, up to 15 days for visibility on that one. And it's, of course, just available to those with Google Meet hardware equipment. Next is that ability to turn off the video feed for select tiles in Meet. So you'll be able to turn off those video feeds for anyone that you just want to, drop out of focus, for example. And, you want to have only certain members being focused in that event. And this will kind of give users that ability to say, don't watch, as you select a user. And say,
when I saw the headline on this, anymore. I was like, is that a problem that people have? Like, I've never had the urge to turn this off. But then I'm looking at it, and there is a goofy image, goofy cartoon video character on one of the tiles. Like, education has this problem. Got it. Right. Proceed.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, I've also had some meetings where I've turned on the the custom background and images and faces, whatever. And I'm sure there's probably some people that didn't want to see that with my video feed. So, but it definitely doesn't probably happen too often in a business setting. But for those of you that are looking forward to this feature, it did start on the 18th of April for both rapid release and scheduled release domains. And it'll be on a gradual rollout up to 15 days for feature visibility there. And availability to all Workspace customers, as well as the G Suite basic and business customers as well. Just waiting for the day to not have that G Suite basic and business customer reference in these updates. It's like, come on, we've transitioned already. Apparently, everyone's not supposed to be on. No one's supposed to be on G Suite anymore. When are we going to stop talking about it?
It's okay. Right. It's on the Google Sites migration roadmap speed.
Oh, I know. Of course. Next is the better location context for events and RSVPs in Gmail. So now you can start to do the same thing that you were doing previously when it was announced to make it easier for RSVPs and calendar to let others know you're planning to join a meeting. So if you've set your physical or virtual working location, there is going to be a default join method for your RSVP. So, nice little feature here. Not overly important, I don't think, but this is going to start rolling out to wrap release domains, or started to roll out to the wrap release domains on the 19th of April, up to 15 days there for visibility, and then scheduled release domains will start to see that on the 3rd of April, or start April, not April, 3rd of May. Also on a gradual rollout up to 15 days for visibility there. It is going to be only available to certain customers, not available to those on Workspace Essentials, Business Starter, Enterprise Essentials, Frontline, and Legacy G Suite Basic customers, nor those with Google personal accounts, but will be available to anyone else not mentioned. And then
I'm honestly
finally,
surprised that this didn't launch with the initial RSVP and calendar.
Right? I don't know. Yeah.
I guess a different product, but, tight level integration and all that, like we were talking about before.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. The most interesting update that we have, though, is coming up here. And this is that ability to co-present a Google slide in Google Meet. So if you've ever, I think this is something that should have been released at the very beginning of COVID. This would have been one of the best updates to have, when everyone was working from home and when someone created a deck and they needed to present it and then someone else needed to talk about it. So this is, of course, going to give you, as it says, the ability to allow someone else to co-host that presentation with you and allow them to control the slide navigation and when things are advancing. Instead of, I was at a conference the other day, and all I heard was next slide, next slide, next slide. I'm like, have we not moved past that? How long is it taken us to get past next slide? Get a pointer, get a thing plugged in the computer, press the button.
Little remote.
Really?
Yep. They're not expensive.
Still
either.
happening.
I've had one for years.
Yeah, but if you're doing it at a big event with hundreds and hundreds of people, come on, that looks like.
Amateur hour.
You've just amateur, right? So, So that
which reminds me, actually, I need to order another one. I lost mine. I think I left it at the last event I did.
Yeah. So the Logitech one, right? That has the thing built in,
the laser pointer, and the
right. Yeah, I see it everywhere.
Built in. Yep. And then you always got to carry batteries with it too, just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Lives in my backpack. It's that integral to my, or it was that integral to my setup.
Yep.
Unless I leave it at an event.
Yep. Let's see. In terms of timeline on this one, I don't know if I talked about this. 20th of April, rapid release domains will start to see this hitting their users on a gradual rollout, up to 15 days visibility. Also, the same rollout pace. We'll start to see that happening on the 8th of May for scheduled release domains. And availability here, not going to be available to those on Workspace Essentials, Business Starter, Education Fundamentals, Education Standard, Frontline, and those on G Suite Basic and Business customers, nor those with personal Google accounts. So that wraps up the updates for this week, and I will pass it over to you, Jesse, to talk about all these great things in the news.
All right. So in the traditional Google marketing method of leak it all before it's announced, the Google Pixel Fold has basically all been leaked at this point. We've seen pictures of it. We've seen videos of it. We've all but seen somebody playing with it at this point, and I'm sure that's probably going to happen in the next couple of days or so, because inevitably it always does. And I think it's pretty inevitable that this thing is going to launch at I/O. So ready or not, here it comes, the Google's Pixel Fold foldable phone. And honestly, I've never been so sure a device is coming from looking at a company's product updates as I have been about this one, with all of the changes that have been made to foldable interface and larger screen Android interfaces and so on. So obviously they've been working on this one, thinking about this one for a while, and gearing up behind the scenes, or not so behind the scenes as it were, to get this thing to launch. But if you're interested in what it looks like, go ahead and take a look. The code name apparently is Felix, and it will have, quote, the most durable hinge on a foldable phone, supposedly, and it will cost $1,700, which is exactly what Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 4 costs. So Google's sticking with the price point in the market there, and I'm with you, Steve. I would not be buying a phone for that price. I would buy a brand new laptop for that price.
Well, so I mean, some of the iPhones right now with extra storage could get to that price, right? If you add
now I'm dying for a fold. Like, I want a foldable iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm an iPhone guy. I really want. You know me. I'm a screen real estate guy. I love it. The more, the merrier. The more, the better. To be able to carry a 10-inch screen, or even the 8-inch screen with me on a in a small 6-inch, or whatever the numbers are that work out there. To give me a lot more workable space on a phone that isn't actually the size of a tablet is game changer. It's next level.
So what you're saying, Jesse, is that you're more of a grower, not a shower. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I like incognito until it matters, apparently. And I think that with the price point here, we're just gonna keep going. I think on the price point here, what they're assuming is that you're going to be replacing two devices, your tablet and your phone, which, sure, eventually down the road, I may, have that mentality. But right now I have an iPad and I have an iPhone, and I'm upgrading my iPhone. I'm not upgrading my iPad so soon, because I certainly don't get a new one of those every year. But I do get a new phone every year because I want the latest tech and I want the latest cameras.
Yeah, every year and a half, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, give or take. And quite frankly, I do find a lot of benefit in having a separate tablet from my phone, especially if I'm working on multiple things, or if I'm on the go and I want doubles, 2 screens or whatever it is, and I don't have a laptop handy. And I wouldn't be able to have that as much, even though it is technically 2 screens. It's not that type of device. So I definitely am looking forward to this future and seeing it arrive. I'm not ready to pay for it at this price point personally, and it sounds like you aren't either.
I don't think so. I was hanging around some friends who are Korean or from Korea, and they all had Samsung foldable phones, very popular over there. I don't know. Yeah, I've been away from a tablet for so long with that size screen, and I don't know what benefit I might get from a larger screen phone, because I never got connected well with the tablets.
I think the ergonomics are better. The ability to swipe differently than just holding one-handed all the time like this is like that. Just doing this right here, that hurts my thumb a little bit, with that angle. Which is probably not a good thing, but that's besides the point. Is it does change the form factor to be able to read like that. It's more natural, like a book, as opposed to a candy bar in your hand kind of a thing. But to refer back to one of our episodes, I don't know, let's see, 3 months ago or 2 months ago, towards the beginning of the year there, I have to see that the tech is there first, because all the foldables I've seen, the fold itself looks terrible after 6 months of using it. And, I would hope that a Google phone would have a better crease, fold technology in there, but they begin to wear out, I suppose. And it's not the hinge. The hinge, sure, you could say the hinge is going to be the best one on the market, but it's the screen itself where it bends. That's where I want to see really progress before I would be getting into this. Also, it's not like it's a new processor or anything. It's using Google's Tensor G2, which is the same one that launched with the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro phones last year, according to the article here. So I don't know. I feel like you should be, putting out a full blown, like if Apple puts an M3 in a foldable iPhone and it can run basically everything that my laptop does, and I can plug it into a dock where it actually becomes like Samsung Dex or whatever. Like, yeah, I would pay $2,000 for that, because then it would be everything everywhere all at once, so to speak. And I actually, came up with a concept when I was, I don't know, 15, of having a laptop shell. And I don't know if you remember, we actually had this at one point. They were called the Transformer. I think Asus made those, where you like pop your phone into it and then it becomes part of the device, or it powers the device. My design was it becomes your mouse and it powers the rest of the device. But like, that using your phone when you get where you're going, just plopping it in, and then it goes up onto this massive interface like I have in my desktop here. Yeah, sure. That's probably the future. Or some iteration of it, but I don't think foldables are the next step for that. Although I do really, really want a foldable, because again, I like having more real estate, especially if I'm reading articles or playing a game. But I don't see myself whipping out a keyboard all that often, circa Palm Pilots with foldable keyboards back in 2005 to work on documents on my foldable phone. Like, that's why I have a laptop.
Or your Blackberries, with your keyboard.
Oh yeah, I love those Blackberries. Oh yeah. So I actually, I showed this in last episode or 2 episodes ago. Losing the signal is coming out. I'm very, very excited for that. Definitely have to go and watch that. All right, enough about the Pixel Fold. Moving on, where we have an article from Google itself. The Google Cloud blog is prepared for RSA with this security snapshot by the numbers. Just a little bit interesting things. It's a little bit salesy, as some of these tend to be, but it is good to have these numbers in your back pocket, especially when you're looking at strategy and you're talking to some of the other executives at the company, to know, what other companies are doing, where your investment should be, what you're looking at, what the industry is like. And, some of the things that they say here is cybersecurity is the #1 investment priority for organizations in 2023. As it should be, and talks about it's a matter of trust and how to build it. How do you know that you can trust a cloud provider? So obviously Google is invested in having a really good answer to this question. But I guess it would apply to pretty much any of your cloud providers there. Apparently, attacker dwell time is decreasing. The global median dwell time, which is the time between when an organization is compromised and when the attack is discovered, was 16 days in 2022, and it is an improvement from the previous year, which had a global median dwell time of 21 days instead of 16. And a giant leap from 2011, when the median dwell time was 416 days. So what this means is that people are actually learning to recognize what a breach looks like, and whether it's on the end of those who are experiencing it and who are realizing that all of a sudden there's ransomware rampant on their machine, or it's the admins and the cybersecurity folks that are able to catch these things using various tools and technologies that have also improved. That's excellent news to hear, and I'm very, very happy to see that continue to drop, and ideally should drop even further as time goes on, especially with some of our new AI-powered methods, which is really just another fancy way of saying, machine learning algorithms, etc. So, onward and upward.
Well, it's a fancy way of saying if else statements.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically. It's like been around forever. It's like, if does this, if then that, if then, it's like that's all it is.
Well, that's an algorithm. There you go.
Writing. Anyways, okay.
Yes. All right, so there's a couple of other items in this article. If you're interested in the cybersecurity side of things, you can go and check that out. But onward. Now, this is something that we have reported on in the past, but the Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Google looks to turbocharge their AI efforts with combined brain and DeepMind unit. And this is something that we talked about, I think, last week or the week before, that Google used to have 2 different divisions who don't like each other very much, both working on artificial intelligence and machine learning and so on and so forth. They're actually on different sides of the ocean. One is in England and one is in Northern California here, and they're rivals. And for a long time, that was a good thing, and now Google has decided not so much. Now we need everybody under one roof. The new unit is called Google DeepMind, which is interesting that it's not under the alphabet name. Could have been Alphabet DeepMind, but it is in fact Google DeepMind. And I wonder if and when they're going to bring in, some of their other tools away from the Alphabet umbrella, and what they're even doing with that anymore, because I haven't seen it talked about much at all.
Wasn't that just like a formality, like a legal creation?
It is, but it's still the
things...
company that owns all the rest of these other companies. But even Google isn't using that for naming things or owning things anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, some of them. Mandiant, I think, is owned by Alphabet. But anyway. Apparently, the previous head of Google Research that was overseeing the Brain team will now move to a new role as chief scientist, and he'll be leading the company's, quote, most critical and strategic technical projects related to AI. So keep an eye on Jeff Dean, who is the individual that I'm talking about here, and he's going to be definitely somebody helping to steer the ship, as it were. But as promised, not going to talk too much about AI and Bard here. But Google's gearing up to fight. The Microsoft brought the fight, and Google's gearing up to fight back. So, next in the freaking duh category, schools that bought millions of Chromebooks, and I will stress here, cheap Chromebooks in 2020.
Cheap. Yeah,
and
exactly.
3 years later, they're starting to break. Well, freaking duh. Like, what you think was going to happen? Not only are they cheap, which means that they're getting sluggish at this point, you gave them to kids who are notorious for destroying them. Like, of course they're broken, and you're not going to be able to fix them very well, and it's going to be hard to get the parts because they're cheap units, and they're not made for that.
Right.
And they're made to be just,
And, like, 3 years ago, get a new device by now.
Well, no, okay, fine. They do a lot of marketing. It's an 8-year guarantee that it'll get software updates. Now, it's a little bit of a bait and switch here because it doesn't actually really work well for 8 years unless you buy a really, really powerful one. And even then, we'll see. But this was 3 years ago. Parts were hard to get. They were switching out different processors for lesser powered ones because you simply couldn't get the chips that you needed in order to make these laptops. And schools and nonprofits and other departments, IT departments, companies, everybody was buying whatever they could get, and so many of these were cheap. To pull a quote here from the article, for example, researchers found that nearly half of the replacement keyboards listed for Acer Chromebooks were out of stock online, and that over a third cost $90 or more, which is nearly half the cost of a typical $200 Chromebook. Typical $200 Chromebook. Seriously? Of course it's broken. It wouldn't have lasted me a year. Never mind a student in a school district who doesn't give a crap.
Right.
And I don't treat them all that well, granted, but I don't take. Like, I don't beat them up. I don't take good care of them. But still, like, come on. Wouldn't have lasted me a week, actually, because $200 Chromebook, I would have been so frustrated with how sluggish it is, I probably would have broken it against the wall over here. But that's besides the point. And the article here, and this isn't just The Verge. This is I had a couple of other articles talking about this as well, 9to5 Google and whatnot. But to save you all, I only included this one. But this is an actual report, and the report is called Chromebook Churn. And I was just like, who paid for this report? Like, I could have written this report, and I didn't even have to do the research to tell you that this is going to happen. So, man, my sympathy goes out to those that are dealing with this, those in those IT departments who are likely underpaid and underappreciated and overextended, and you are the real heroes here because you have to deal with all of this garbage, but. They're going to break. That's not a knock against the Chromebooks. The fact of the matter is that you've got all these kids to start using, cloud-based devices that could be relatively decent, especially for $200 a box or for a laptop that, that lasted this long. And that's a win, the way that Chrome was able to respond there and be adopted so heavily across all of the industries that are using them. Anyway, the article goes on to talk about more, but I think I've made the point there. It does show an image in the article here about the HP Dragonfly Pro. Now, if you had bought everybody those, they'd still be lasting. And you know what? Those are metal and not garbage plastic. So they actually might not, have fared as bad. Now, also, it depends which model they were buying, right? The Asus, I forget which model it was. I had recommended to a school they buy a bunch of these because it is designed for repairability. And it is designed for students because it has literal rubber bumpers around the edge. And And the clamshell is designed for students because it is designed to withstand up to 60 pounds of downward force on it, aka a mid-sized elementary school child sitting on the device, right? Mm-hmm. These are not what we're talking about here. This is not what they bought. Now, granted, they didn't have a choice. That was what was on the market. That's what they could get. That's what we all used because it's all we could get. But this article pissed me off, if you can't already tell. So,
oh no, I couldn't tell at all.
Let's do better. Yes. So on. We'll get there. But please don't knock Chromebooks for this. All laptops at that price point are in this bucket. Yeah. You know what? The Windows laptops that they bought for this price are not even working anymore because Windows won't run on that kind of hardware like at all 3 years later for a $200 device. Happened? No, it gets so sluggish. Windows is a heavy OS. Yeah. And devices that sell at that price point are at that price point because they have cheap chips. Cheap chips are slow. They are sluggish. They're underpowered. They are low energy on purpose. And, they just don't run Windows very well. And Microsoft keeps loading in more and more flashy things in there. And, it just gets heavier and heavier with every update. And, they're working on that. And they do have the Windows S variant, which was their response to Chrome. I don't know that it ever really took off. I'm not in the education sector. Comment on the video down below if you are using any of those. Did they stop doing that? I don't even remember. If they did, great. Another notch for Chrome. Right, Chrome OS devices can't beat them. But anyway, yes, not so great for the environment because now there's a lot of these devices that are getting thrown away. But you know what? No, it wasn't great for the world either. COVID, and this is how we survived. So let's try to do what we can moving forward to not buy shitty Chromebooks. From this point forward, but you've also got budgets to contend with. So, all right. Anyway, I've beaten that one to death. All right, back to the software side of things instead of hardware. I mean, it's kind of hardware because you need a hardware device for this. Is Google Authenticator. This is from the What the Hell Took Them So Long department. Google Authenticator finally, mercifully, adds account syncing for two-factor codes. Now, if you're not using Google Authenticator, you're probably using, or at least I hope you're using, an authentication tool from another company, such as Microsoft or 1Password, or no, not LastPass, Keeper, or any of the other, still reputable password companies, password management companies that are out there. Authy, I think, is one of the more popular ones that are just for authentication codes. And if you're not familiar with this, you really need to be, so go and look up two-factor authentication and educate yourself, because if you're listening to the show and you don't know what 2FA is, go look it up. You need it. Basically, you're able to get a authentication code that is a second form of authentication in addition to your password. And with other services, if you lost your phone, or you switched phones and didn't migrate your codes over, you could just log in on another device and poof, there's all your codes. With Google Authenticator, if you lost your phone or got a new phone and didn't migrate it over, you're screwed. Like, you need your backup codes to be able to get into a lot of those accounts, and people have their crypto things there. They have their, their school and work accounts, and they have personal accounts, and a lot of things are using this now, and it's great because it is so secure. But a lot of people really, and I've seen this complained about a lot, if you forget to move it over, or you can't because the phone is dead, you're in trouble. And so that's no longer a problem here. All you have to do, it's already live, is update your app. I did that today on iOS. I saw it's live. I had it synced to my account. It was 1, 2, 3, super easy. Just make sure that you're logged into the right account that you want for to be synced with that. I did not confirm if that is the case also on Android, but I imagine, nope, looks like it's launched already on Android as well. So go to your app update screen and you will be able to get that live now if you're using it. And and it also got a new logo. So gone is the vault door looking variant of the Google icon of the G, and now it's a star of Google made out of Google colors, which obviously we're showing on the screen, but for anybody who's on the podcast side, now you have an idea kind of what that looks like. Yeah, it's over here on my side, I think. It looks nice. It's a great update, and honestly, what the hell took them so long? Okay, last update. This one, as Steve was saying, perplexed me. As Steve was saying at the beginning of the episode, perplexed me a bit. Google Workspace Summit is going to be in May 17th, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, just several weeks before Google Next. So I'm hoping that they're going to announce a whole bunch of really cool things, and then they're going to do what they don't usually do and actually go into more details about these things at Google Next. And hey, maybe they'll release them, because Google's been on a tear. This is priority one for the company to, get all of these features into their tools. But a lot of things that we've seen announced at Next in the last 2 years, some of them still haven't even shown up. So it'd be really nice if Google could, announce these in May and then detail them at Next, and then, hey, launch them immediately right after Next, right at Next. That'd be great. Yeah. It's really satisfying when Apple announces a new update to iOS or to a device or something and goes, the beta is available today and everybody else can get it in 2 weeks. And it's just like, hallelujah. There it is. I heard about it. I'm excited about it. I'm going to download it right now. Can't do that with Google. I've forgotten it was even a feature by the time it comes out sometimes. Yeah. So I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. They announced that. It's like, ooh, don't knock over your whiskey. Okay. But anyway, this is going to be a bit of a pivotal event, in my opinion, because, and granted, it's only a 15-minute keynote, but we are going to hear from Aparna, who is the new VP and General Manager of Google Workspace. And correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think we've had a public appearance by her just yet talking about the future Workspace. Right. So this will be a good one. Good to get a little peek behind the curtain, maybe get some updates on what's been going on, and what's important to her and what she's working on, and what we can see going forward. But anyway, the keynote is called "A New Era of Work with Generative AI." So if you thought we were going to shut up about generative AI, sorry. More to show up soon. Some of the other sessions here, driving cultural transformation with a multi-generational workforce. That'll be an interesting one. I feel like somebody was sitting around a room going, anybody over the age of 40 is going, what the hell is all this AI stuff and why should I care? So likely the case, maybe not 40. I mean, I guess it depends on how into technology they are. It could be anyone over the age of 20 as compared, not compared, but as evidenced by some of the people that I've worked with who just don't get it and are not interested here. But I think that is going to be an interesting conversation around AI and cultural transformation, because I've dealt with that. I have worked with doing cultural transformation in a company, both on technology scale and culture around technology and operations. And it's not easy, especially with people that are just like, you know what? I've been doing it this way for 40 years. Yeah. I'm going to do it this way until I retire. Go ahead.
Yeah, nothing.
Anyway, yeah, that could be tough. So that should be a good conversation. But again, it's only 15 minutes. What's with these keynotes or these sessions? All right, whatever. Yeah. Okay, the case for change, a business value framework for technology choices is another one. Security and innovation, taking a secure, data-driven approach to hybrid work is another one. Empowering your frontline workforce as a strategic advantage is another one. I'm not going to read all of these. There's a few more there. I don't know why they're only 15 minutes. That makes me a little bit frustrated here. 3 people talking in 15 minutes? Really? All right, they better go into more information at Next of whatever they're talking about at these, because these look like they're going to be a teaser trailer. That's what we're going to have here. This is a teaser event. It's literally likely what it is. But don't miss it. May 17th, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And get fully teased and ready to go to Google Next and learn about all the new things from Google Next. And if you're not going, or if you're not going to watch any of those sessions, keep it locked here so that we can bring you all of the information from Google Next. Hopefully, at least one of us will be there. If not both of us, we shall see. That is all for this week. Thank you for joining us. You know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, etc. Have a great week, and we will see you next week on Workspace Recap.